Hi, I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Garage, and today we're having our monthly tech meet, and we'll be working on slow windows on a Bentley T2. There's another way to test it. Let me grab my test lights here. These are probably the best electrical tool you could ever use, most versatile. This is just, right here, this is your basic version. What this is, it has a probe, it has a little light bulb in there, and then it has a clamp. And this tests for voltage or ground. It can go either way. Since we want to check, we'll just take the motor out of it, to see if it's getting a complete circuit. Of course, there we go. So, to test for voltage, what you do is you take the clamp and you attach it to a ground. Body ground is good. Okay. Here we go. These should both be hot. There's a hot, that's testing for voltage, right? And this is testing for voltage. So both of those have voltage, and that's normal. Because when you activate a switch, what it does is it leaves voltage on one and puts ground to the other. I'm going to lose some of you guys here. And then when you go the other direction, it does the opposite. It leaves the voltage on the one wire and puts ground on the other. So if you want to test, we know we have voltage on these, right? Because we tested that. If you want to test for ground, what you do is just take your clamp and put it on a voltage source, and then you can test for ground. See that? If you want to test if you're getting a complete circuit, in other words, voltage and ground, you put it between the two leads. You see, we're getting nothing there. And let's see what happens. I don't want to show.
But the motor was going down slowly.
From the other switch.
Okay.
Now, that's a different issue. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Right now we're diagnosing the switches. Okay, so if we go to the other switch, we should get it in both directions. So now I'm going to go down, and now I'm going to go up. So what that's telling is you have voltage and ground in both directions. And all it does is put a little light in between those two wires. So that's a concept a lot of even really good mechanics can't seem to figure out. I don't know why. So that's a very handy tool. And another thing you can use this tool for, this is really old school. If you got a battery that's going dead all the time, and you know your charging system's working because your gauge says it reads and all that, just disconnect the ground wire from the battery, hook this on that, and then touch this to the other wire. If the light lights up, you've got to draw someplace. Something's left on. It's real simple, very cheap tool. This is a little fancier one. It has a little digital display and it tells you voltage, so you can actually read voltage with it. There's a lot of mechanics and there's a lot of tool trucks that want to sell you these power probes. And what they are is you hook them up to the battery and you can actually put voltage where you want with it. It's a very dangerous tool. You can ruin computers and delicate circuitry with that by putting voltage in the wrong place. So I hate those things.
This is different. That's different than a continuity tester.
Well, this tests continuity. Well, no, you got to apply voltage to do that.
Yeah, you have to apply voltage.
Yeah, this tests amps though.
Yeah.
This will test some amps if there's a draw, and it'll test circuits. But a continuity tester is you have to apply voltage to read resistance.
Or an ohm meter.
Well, that's what an ohm meter is.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a circuit tester that tests.
Are your window winders fine?
So does that just read voltage, or would that also give you current?
This doesn't give you current. No, it'll just it'll work as a. This is a really high impedance to protect the delicate circuitry on the modern cars. Huh?
Not a brand name, but
Well, I call it a test light. I don't know what this thing is called exactly.
What's nice about that is that, test lights have always just been able to tell you that there is voltage, but
Right.
never how much voltage.
Right.
And that's what's nice about that.
Yep. So, let's I guess we're going to move to the other side, and what I want to do is test that or fix that window, the circuit problem here, before we go any further, because these window motors, when they get slow, you can take a look at them sometimes. You see this one's all rusty. It's already given us some scary signs. There is a modification that you can do to these really slow windows, because even if all the tracks are good and let's say your motor's getting tired, you can tap into another voltage source, bypass all that wiring coming here, and just use the signal wires to activate relays. Relays are like they're just switches that give you better power. They're higher current. You can carry higher current, and you tap into something that has a high current. And on the back doors, their modification, you tap into the cigar lighter, which is a separate circuit. Okay. On the front doors, there's no cigar lighter, but guess what? They got a high current wire coming to this door lock switch, so that's where I tap in for that extra power. And that modification, I did not make it up. I'm a good copycat. There's a website called rrtechnical.info. It's an Australian-based website that has all kinds of technical data for most of these cars. There is a special link to PDFs that shows you the circuit diagram. It's over here. When I start to build the harness for that, we'll deal with that.
In my understanding why you have a slow window syndrome is that the gauge wire is so thin over time it creates resistance, and you don't get the voltage necessary to operate the motor.
Well, you get the voltage but not the current.
Yeah.
So the small wire restricts current. It's like trying to get more water flow through a 1/2-inch sprinkler pipe as opposed to a 2-inch sprinkler pipe. You're going to get a lot more water through. The more water, which is current, the better the motors will work. That's also why you shouldn't run heavy power tools with a long extension cord, unless it's a heavy gauge one, because what you do is you overload that motor. It's barely struggling to run, and then if you load it, you pick up an extension cord that you've been using on it, and it'll get hot. And that's the same thing that happens in here. The later cars have much finer wiring. These are usually 14 gauge, which is good, but it still has to go all the way through everything over there, and then it has to go through these little, excuse me, Ray, micro switches. Okay, they're little tiny things, and they got to supply the current to do that. And typically on the micro switches, what fails on them is you've got a circuit where you have the common, which is going to go to one of these wires, and then you have a normally closed contact, which is generally ground, but sometimes it's voltage. And then when you activate that micro switch, it goes to the other one. So that's how it reverses the polarity. Let's say both closed ones are on positive, and then you hit once, it puts ground on it, so it gives you that flow direction, and then the opposite happens when you use the other switch. And normally it goes bad is those contacts that are stuck together. They kind of corrode. That's typically what the fault is. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that door panel apart over there, and we're going to get it so we can make it work from this side by fixing the other side.